Hey everybody, Danny Mod here. Thanks for joining us. This week I've got 3 things that will improve your consistency of your chipping around the green. If you're finding you're missing a green just like this and starting to catch the ball fat, so you leave the ball in front of your nose, or maybe you do the complete opposite and you fire the ball through the back of the green, or maybe you do both. It is so frustrating, isn't it? And it ruins so many rounds of golf. You're probably playing pretty decent, but then suddenly you hit a few dodgy shots, miss a green, and then you can't get up and down, and it spoils a round of golf. So in this week's training, I'm going to show you from a decent lie and a not so good lie how you can improve your overall strike. Before I get into the training though, if this is one of your first videos of mine, maybe come and join the community. If you press that little bell button and next to the subscribe button, you get notified every time I release a video just like this one. So 3 things. What's number 1? The first thing you need to know is concept. The concept of chipping, I believe, has been it's been wrong for so many years. I got taught it when I was a junior golfer, when I started to struggle a little bit. And it's simply this. People, if you've been taught to get the ball back in your stance, to put your hands forward and your weight forward, this is for me the hardest way in the world to chip. When you do all those things, you simply expose that sharp leading edge of the golf club to the ground. What does that do? Well, the first thing, if you do that, you need to make sure that you hit that ball first, because if you don't hit the ball first, that sharp leading edge is going to get stuck into the ground. So the very, very first point is you need to realize that we don't want to use or expose the front part of the golf club. We want to expose the bottom or even the back of the golf club. This is blunt, it's soft, it's not sharp at all. And what that does is when we're chipping, is basically we're getting more of a gliding effect through the actual turf like this, okay? And what that does is that's where you basically get the spin. And if you look at here, is I've made no mark on the ground whatsoever. So we get this lovely, lovely connection. So the first thing I want you to do is get the concept of using the bounce or getting the feeling of the bounce before we move into the next stage. So moving on to number 2, how do you do this? How do you improve the quality? And how do you get this bounce working on a regular basis? Well, the first thing you've got to do is you've clearly got to get used to grounding the club in a very different way. I'm going to cover the setup and how that will enhance the way you ground the club, and then I'll go through some in-swing things. So the first thing I would do in your setup is make sure that this time that we don't have the ball back in our stance. Push the ball further forward in our stance, middle to forward. Definitely don't have it back. This just encourages way too much shaft lean and exposes that leading edge. It's just simple, move it forward. The hands will be ahead, but they'll only just be in, the butt is here, just in line with the front of the golf ball. That's basically it. The next thing I want you to do, again, to help expose the bounce of the golf club or the back of it, is weaken your left hand, your lead hand here. Move it in an anti-clockwise direction here as you grip down. This really helps the impact coming through the ball. Notice in my setup I'm also quite narrow. This really helps, stops me moving around so much. It keeps me in a sense feeling like I'm right over the top of the golf ball here. The next thing I want you to do, so once your setup's done, we're going to use a simple bit of chalk drill here. So I've got the Dactrin Active. In order to improve your ground striking, you've got to remember, look, your body is an absolute genius. If now you've got the concept of, in a sense, using the bounce of the golf club, all we're going to do is spray a white line here on the ground. And what we're going to do now is I know that your body will work out a way to do it. Maybe not straight away, but once you've got your setup position here, you'll start striking it. Now the idea is to get the bounce of the club gliding through that line. Now I'm happy for you to take an inch behind the line and an inch after, just gliding through, but you're trying to get a consistent motion. I'm not breaking any surface, I haven't gone to any mud here, I'm literally just gliding through this line. You might find that when you do it, you get this digging motion. Absolutely fine. You now know that the leading edge is actually stuck in. That's not a problem. Just keep going. You know the concept now. Just keep practicing backwards and forwards. Things that will improve this, and things that I find that a lot of golfers do and it gets in the way of it, is one, you might find if you're not striking the line consistently or not grounding it, you're moving around a lot. That's one, so just get a sense of that. Second thing that I find people doing is they're basically, in a sense, taking the club back and it's very close like this. So they almost got this bowing in the wrists. Try to avoid this type of action at all. If you're going to get the wrist working, everything works in a rotational, the forearm's rotating here, keeping that toe of the club pointing to the sky. Yep, so it's as simple as that. And third and final thing here is we don't want this right arm extending. I see this a lot as well. Everyone's kind of, in a sense, eager to get back to the golf ball, so this right arm extends and they hit way too deep. So what we're doing is we're getting ourselves set, and all we're going to do is practice gliding through that line. Now at this stage, I'm not interested actually, look, it's a nice shot, but I'm not interested in where the ball's going. All I'm concentrating on now is getting the glide through this line and just practicing my ground contact. That's going to go right. I just pushed that a little bit, but I'm not focusing on that at all. All I'm doing right now is focusing on, can I get that sound and the glide through the turf just like that. Once I've done that and I've got a feel of this, really be patient with it. Like I said, ignore distance control, ignore direction, just improve your ground contact. It will make a massive difference. And by the way, you can hit the ground slightly behind the ball and it'd be absolutely fine. You do not have to hit the ball first. I've got some more detailed training on this specific issue and the basic technique up in this top right hand corner. Go and have a look at it. It will really, really help your overall shot game. Then we move on to step number 3. So number 3 is where we put it all together. We must remember that this game is a sport, right? And it needs to be played. I find too many people, when they're going up to a golf ball on a golf course with absolutely no routine, and they're stood over the golf ball thinking of 101 things, and you cannot play golf like that. So what we're going to do now is this. We're going to build this into a simple routine, and it's got an athletic one. We're going to walk to the golf ball. We're going to feel the grounding. Then watch this. Club goes in, foot, in, go. Same again. Again, this stage, don't worry about where the ball's going. We're building a system. You get yourself in, feel the grounding, get a sense of that gliding through. Club comes in, go. On we go again. Back again, and you just simply practice this routine until it starts to feel much more comfortable. A couple of practice swings. Get yourself going. Put club down, in, go. And each time what you're doing is you're just getting a feel for the routine. Now it's going to feel comfortable. It might even feel a bit rushed. That might even look a little bit rushed. This is where you develop your routine, the routine you can take to a golf course, but this is a sport. Now, let's just finish off with one more shot out of the rough. So you find yourself in the rough and the ball's nestled down a little bit. What do you do? Well, the key thing sometimes here is don't try and go at the golf ball. What you can actually do here is you can actually go to hitting slightly behind the golf ball here. So I'm actually going to literally almost look at hitting about an inch behind the golf ball, same setup as we did before, and balls forward in my stance. I'm literally going to ground the golf club now, focus on grounding it an inch behind, and then let's see what happens. Nothing more complicated than that. Ground it an inch behind and let it pop up onto the green. It's going to come out with a bit more topspin because I'm coming out of the rough, but it's out there. Simple exercise there, but don't go for the golf ball. Hit an inch behind the golf ball. Again, not an inch by digging down the leading edge. Use the bounce as you're doing it here. Just literally put the club an inch behind, nice and committed, because you're hitting the grass. You're going to need maybe a little bit more aggression going through, but this is something that you can practice again on the practice ground way before you get out onto that golf course. So let's summarize. What have we done? Concept number 1, we've got to, in a sense, get away from the old school way of looking at things. We don't want to have the ball back, hands forward. That exposes the leading edge. We don't want that. We want to expose the bounce of the golf club. How do we do that? We're going to push the ball forward in our stance. We're going to maybe weaken the grip on the left hand a little bit here. All those things are going to really help us now expose the bounce. Now, second point, we said, look, we've got to improve the grounding. Well, we just said, weakening the left hand will do this. Moving the ball forward, improve the quality of getting the bounce working. Simplicity, your body's a genius. You know, at the end of the day, we spray a line on the ground and I say, look, just try and hit that line and try to work on getting the bounce hitting that line consistently. Your body will work out a way to do it. Problems that I see people extending their right arm way too much. I see people moving around. All this will start to disappear if you simply follow that exercise. Yes, you have to shelve direction and distance control to start with. That's absolutely fine. Once you've done that though, then move on to step number 3, which is start to get ready for the golf course. How do we do this? Remember that golf is a sport. It's not something that you have to fill your head full of loads of stuff, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. This gets confusing and it adds too much tension. Practice a routine where you get to the golf ball, feel the grounding here, get the motion, and then when you're ready, step up, one look, and then away we go. Okay, and it is as simple as that. Really work on this. You know it's such an important part of the game. And of course, look, I'm going to put in the top right-hand corner some more detailed short game videos that I've put together over the last few months, which will also really complement this session. But until next week, everybody, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, share it with some people who struggle with their short game, and I'll see you next week. Have a great golfing week.